You're listening to Podcast PXN,
a video game podcast
delivering player experience news.
Let's go! Will 343 finish this fight? And welcome to Podcast PXN, episode 155. I am one of your hosts, the perennial dating app swiper from Portland, Oregon, Christian Macias, and I'm joined over Discord by the failing computer, Kentucky's #1 Spartan and PXN founder himself, Daniel Prindle, aka Dan is DTM. How you doing, buddy? You hanging in there?
Not good. Not good.
The president of the Tifa Lockhart fan club. He is the Nintendo aficionado and artist extraordinaire at Roro.
Hello all. Let's go.
And my heterosexual life partner, one of many, one half of the Men Engage podcast, Battlefield's bad boy, the Tarkov Teletubby, Gage Dempster. Mwah.
Hello. Do you know what the DTM stands for in Dan is DTM?
Tell me.
Damn those machines.
For real. It's for real. Dan, fill us in, before we start the show, fill us in on what's going on with your PC.
It's just a disaster right now. I mean,
What more can I
so
say?
essentially it all started with I was having weird issues where my PC was saying that I only got like 250 megabits download speed and I have a gigabit speed. So I was like, oh, it's my cable. So I swapped the cable out. No. I plugged my laptop in the same exact cable, full speed. Fine. So I'm like, okay, let me do some driver updates, house cleaning. Did my driver updates. Well, my BIOS decided to freak out in the middle of the BIOS update, and it literally kept looping over and over about 300 times. And I'm like, okay, well, clearly that's not working. So I hard powered the PC off, turned it back on, and then it was broken. So then I had to reflash my BIOS, did that, fix that, and it came back up. But now every time I'm apparently wanting to stream, it's gonna blow up again. So yeah, there's some hardware issues here. Sorry.
Have you tried turning it off and then on again?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Yep.
Banger
I'm kidding.
joke.
Yeah. Thank you. Banging body. Anyway, thank you to everyone watching us live and participating in the chat. Just as a reminder, we are live each and every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, no matter what PC troubles we have. Over on YouTube, just search Podcast PXN. You'll find us there, and on twitch.tv/podcastpxn. The topic of the show this week is infinite problems with Halo at 343i. But first, if you're listening, Dale, shout out Dale. The show always starts with the quick bites. So let's go ahead and jump right in. I got a lot of quick bites for us. I figured we'd zoom through these. Last week we talked about Assassin's Creed, so we don't have to go too in depth. However, Assassin's Creed Mirage indeed is officially announced by Ubisoft. We're getting a full reveal later this week on September the 10th. That is Saturday at the UB Forward. I know Dan's excited.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what this is. Obviously, Gage as well has been excited about the return to the original formula of Assassin's Creed, and I feel like we've gotten the RPG version of Assassin's Creed for quite a few years now. So it's kind of a nice change of pace to go back to the original style. And I'm interested to see what the other projects are that are going to come out of the Forward event as well. Obviously, rumors that there's 2 other games that they're working on. That's included in Assassin's Creed Infinity. Is that what it's called?
Right.
Yeah, Infinite or Infinity or something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So very interested to see what that turns into.
You guys will have to share this into the Twitter chat because I'll be out of town, but I'll try to keep up.
Hell yeah.
Moving on, for you God of War freaks, I'm included in that freak category. God of War Ragnarok gets a combat clip over at Game Informer. Don't get too excited. It's about 60 to 90 seconds of actual combat. They only have 4 minutes for the entire month of coverage over at Game Informer. Quick question for the whole gang. Will we get an extensive look at God of War Ragnarok before release, either at a State of Play or a PlayStation Showcase? Yes or no?
Yes. I'm putting down money on a surprise Sony press conference either this month or next.
Yeah. Agreed.
I love it.
I agree with those two gents right there. Definitely. Like a nice little gameplay chunk lead into a story cutscene and then cut to Black God of War coming this November.
That's exactly that. Yeah, 100%.
And you know what?
100%.
Screw it then. I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say you get a few, maybe a few more clips over on the blog posts, some tweets, everything else. Nothing.
Damn.
No God of War.
Christian doesn't know what he's talking about. It's fine.
That is true. I never know. Anyway, speaking of Halo stuff. 1047 Games announces they are ending feature development of Splitgate, focusing on a new game in the Splitgate universe, presenting evolutionary changes to the game built in Unreal Engine 5. I talk a lot of smack to Dan, and playfully, about how Splitgate bodies Halo Infinite, and then here we are, just days later after I say this, where they announcing that Splitgate is not getting any more development. RIP. Very fun game.
R.I.P. I'm glad they're not
R.I.P.
disappearing though, and that they're working on something new. But yeah, it's not, okay.
Right.
Probably a good thing to
I
work
think
on
this
something
came with
new,
the
by the way.
announcement that they're. I think that they are ramping up for a sequel. I think it was in that announcement that they said that they're just going to stop the iterative updates and go full steam ahead on a sequel. So that's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
When did Splitgate come out? I feel like that was
Not too long ago. I feel like a year ago, maybe a year and a half.
I think that's when it got popular, but it released earlier.
Mm, yes, you're right.
Oh yeah.
2019, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very cool. I'm excited to see what they do next because I had a lot of fun with Splitgate 1, I guess. I'm going to call it that now. Moving on. Gray Camouflage Collection revealed by PlayStation. Pre-orders are opening up for on 9/15. You're getting a DualSense and a console cover in that gray camouflage sleek design, releasing October 14th, and a Pulse 3D headset releasing sometime in December. No release date yet, I don't think. Top level thoughts on gray camouflage? I don't really care for it, but if you do, have at it.
You know, it's funny. I saw this and I was like, even when PlayStation does cool things and does themed stuff, it's always so safe. Like gray camouflage, so down the middle, so down the it's just, yeah. It's kind of neat. Like I'm sure this will sell, but like people are like, hey, where's the Last of Us themed PlayStation? Where's the Spider-Man themed PlayStation? Where's the God of War themed PlayStation? Like here's gray camouflage.
Yeah.
Did you want grayscale? Because that's what you get.
Oh, well, okay. The only thing that I know of is that I think this is an homage to the gray digital camo design they did for PS4 controllers, and those did so well. But like, you are right. This is uninspired. Absolutely, no doubt about it. Yeah.
Do you think like they're not gonna make special edition PlayStations anymore? They're doing faceplates now. That's the only reason.
That's what I think people want is those plates.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
Which that is a good thing because you don't need to buy a new console when a limited edition thing comes out. You just buy the faceplates.
That was going to be my question. Is that why they haven't done any like crazy themes, or is it because they want to still do stuff like that?
Actually, you're right, Ro. That's a good point.
Or
Could be.
Yeah, I'm interested to see like later down the line if they release a Last of Us PlayStation 5 and it still costs the same as a PlayStation 5, but how will they justify that when they have this as well? So we'll see.
Right.
Probably not, but hopefully not, I should say.
Moving on. Actually, more on hardware for consoles a bit later at the end of Quick Bites. Very much on the opposite end, I think. We'll get there. But until then, our next Quick Bite. Firewall Ultra is revealed for PSVR 2. This is a VR tactical shooter, very much like Rainbow Six, your Rainbow Six games. I forget the name of the original game. Firewall 0 Hour was for PSVR, and yeah, so the sequel is Ultra. Very cool. If they can, release this game near or at launch with PSVR 2, I think that'd be very big. It seems like there's going to be actually pretty nice little quality amount of titles releasing with PSVR 2, so I'm kind of getting a little bit excited. And I'm the only one, I guess. I'm the only one.
I gotta know the price to get excited.
I was gonna say, I
dude,
need to know
fair
more.
point.
I
Yeah,
need to know more. Yeah,
okay. If Sony does do a showcase, let's assume it's September. They usually do it in September. They absolutely need to do like a solid. Here's 20 minutes straight on what you can expect for VR2. Here's the release date and the fucking price. Sorry, I don't know why I cussed, but here we are. It's due time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I don't want to hear anything more about this until I'm hearing price points and specific release date, and then I'll get excited. Until then, my excitement's on hiatus.
What if they came out in a blog post and said, yes, all the games are backwards compatible. So if you claimed any, actually, I don't know if Gage has any PSVR 1 games in his backlog. I do.
It would be exciting. And that would immediately mean that your library is at least as big as whatever is available currently on PSVR.
Right.
That would be huge. No, that would be huge. Huge.
Moving on, Cyberpunk 2077 expansion has been revealed. It is called Phantom Liberty. And yes, we are getting more Keanu Reeves. He's returning as Johnny Silverhand. Additionally, the Edge Runners update is available today, and it adds Roach Race minigame, the Martinez jacket. You're getting transmog on all your gear, and much, much more. Also included, coming in a future update for current gen devices only, getting a complete overhaul of the police system and an overhaul to vehicular combat, which I find is kind of funny that it's still kind of, they still need to do this a few years after release. But anyway.
Yeah. And this expansion, I think, is the only one that they're doing. Like, this is the one and only expansion. Like, that's what they said, I think. And it's only coming to next gen stuff too.
Yep.
So it's not coming to PS4
You nailed it.
and Xbox Series. So that kind of sucks for those players, but at the same time, understandable because of how the state that game released on previous gen consoles. So
It should have been it should have been a next gen only game.
yeah.
Yep.
Man, you know what though? Before I move on, mark my words, everyone. I think my friend of the show, Hugo, listens sometimes. Hugo, if you're listening, I'm going to give Cyberpunk another shot. I know I keep saying this, but when I find the time, I will give Cyberpunk another shot and another, like, honest to God, college try.
Hell yeah.
Might be the case of just releasing on too many platforms and spreading themselves too thin. And development resources.
Yeah.
That's why.
Right.
And that's why.
A little hint there towards where we're
I
going
was
in
gonna
the
say
topic of the show.
maybe that'll come up again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, that went right over my head. I was too busy thinking about how to segue, and you teed one up, and I missed it. So instead, I'll say, man, thank you, Daniel, the video game insider. Moving on. PS5 software update. PS5 software update has rolled out globally today. It features 1440p output, game lists, and UX enhancements. However, if you're one of those folks who has a monitor or TV that supports VRR, variable refresh rate, you can't click 1440p and have VRR at the same time, which very much sucks in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. I don't know why they wouldn't be able to do that either, because if you can do it in 4K, why couldn't you do it at 1440p? I don't. Yeah,
Who knows,
This is
Dan?
Sony we're talking about, right? They still don't have backwards compatibility natively. So
Yeah.
Oh my god, dude! Don't even get me started on that. I won't even go there. Instead, we'll go to the Nintendo Switch, where their OLED Scarlet Violet Edition has been announced for November 4th. And yes, despite saying they won't get a price increase, this does have a small price increase.
They straight up lied to us.
It's only $10 though, just FYI.
I like it. I think it's a cool looking console. I like the dock. I like the back of the OLED Switch console itself with all like the stickers. Kind of looks like stickers or stamps, I guess. Yeah, I like these sort of additions, but obviously I'm not gonna get when I have a Switch. But yeah, I like this. Cool.
If I can be honest, I've never been a fan of any of the limited edition Switch variations. I think they all look like just like decals have been stuck on.
I
Really?
think the Animal Crossing one and the Dragon Quest one were kind of the best one. They're kind of more low
Sure.
key. At least the back ones, they have like it's a little more into the backing. It's not
Mhm.
poppy like these ones. It kind of blends in a
Right.
little bit more. But yeah, I know what you mean with the other ones. I like it, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely it's out there.
I agree with you, Rashan. The Animal Crossing one was really nice.
Yeah.
The colorway on it was pretty sweet. Closing out Quick Bites, we got two pieces of Xbox news. New features at Xbox. We're getting party chat suppression as an option. You can turn that bad boy on. Dan can finally pull out his Bluetooth headset that's not Bluetooth. You can also, which I think is fantastic, this is pretty freaking cool. Xbox, shout out to you guys. You can jump straight into a game from a friend's screenshot or video clip that they shared to you. That is, I don't know how those engineers do it, but they're doing it. Pretty freaking swaggy.
I will add a tidbit. Currently, that feature is only available on PC and mobile. It's not available for console yet, for native console games.
Engineers, you let me down.
It's still pretty cool.
No,
Sure, on its way.
it's still dope.
Cool.
It is still dope. Yeah, no doubt.
For jumping into a game, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
No.
Yes. Noise suppression is available on console. Don't worry.
I want Dan to explain this again, just on the for the posterity here on the podcast. You know,
I just want to be able to chat with my friends while using my expensive fucking surround sound that I bought. You know, why is that so hard to understand?
That's fair. You bought it. You should get your money's worth out of it.
Exactly. Thank you, Ro.
I won't push it
Even
any
if we're
further.
going to get echo while playing with you.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what noise suppression's for. You know.
I missed that time we were playing games. I forgot what we were playing, but you were using those beats, and every time you yelled, it just immediately peaked the mic. It's fantastic.
That was great. It adds so much to like the comedic like delivery of everything that Dan does. It's beautiful.
Look out, Sony! Oh, you got some competition with your Elite controller or whatever your PS controller is called. I forget. DualSense Edge, something like that. Anyway. The Xbox Elite Series 2 Core controller has been announced. It is selling at an MSRP of $129.99 US. Also, additionally, Design Lab for the Elite Series 2 is coming this holiday.
And so am I.
That is disgusting.
Dude, you know how exciting this is? That's awesome. They only showed solid. I'm hoping that it's as extensive as the regular controller custom, because the little snippet they did was just like, it seems like you can only change like the base color of it and that's it. But if it is as in-depth as the regular Design Lab, that's huge. That's awesome.
So why the $50 price decrease? Well, the core controller is, I think, missing a few of the features from the Series 2. You are not getting the 4 paddles that you get with the regular Series 2. You're also not getting the additional adjustable thumbsticks. Is it adjustable? I'm sorry, no, just additional thumbsticks. I apologize. You're also not getting the carrying case and additional D-pad, the standard D-pad. But if you don't care about all this stuff and you just want a cool controller, the core is an option for you.
I think I'll wait and see if the core is available as an option for Design Lab. I told Gage immediately that I was like, I'm not getting another Series 2 controller because that's ungodly expensive and I've had so many issues with them. But then they announced this one and I was like, okay, it's $50 less. But if they do like a Design Lab one, that'd be kind of cool to do that. But I'm not doing.
Wait and see that. Right?
Yeah, I'm not doing a Design Lab though. If it's the $180 version, it's like, nope, I ain't doing that.
So for the teaser that Xbox put out for the Design Lab, the only thing oh my god, I scared myself. The only thing I'm seeing, I clicked on the video, that's why. That's different in these is just the color of the actual controller, not like, I don't know.
Yeah, which is weird because
like in the middle.
Yeah.
Right. Just the main face. Yeah, I'm hoping that that's just the teaser, and that when it comes out, you can change the buttons and the colors of the triggers and the bumpers, because that's what you can do for all the other controllers.
That'd be ideal, right?
If it is just the main faceplate and that's it, that's going to be kind of disappointing. But I'm sure it'll still get a few sales.
Yeah, and the rubber grips, obviously, those will be black no matter what. So
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I kind of like. I'm not gonna lie to you. I like that.
I do. I like the two-tone look.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That grippy. Anyway, who's hungry? You guys hungry?
I'm hungry. Starving.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any man meat available?
No, but I have some street meat available for you, and we have 3 juicy items for you from street meat. They're all Sony centered, FYI, but here we go nonetheless. Metal Gear Solid remasters coming soon? Question mark, question mark. According to Rhino the Bouncer, Konami is set to reveal remasters of Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3 at the upcoming Tokyo Game Show 2022. Quote, according to various trusted sources, unquote. Which I say, source? Trust me, bro? That's not enough. That's not enough for me.
No, it's not.
I'll see it.
I've never heard of this man.
Yeah. I'll see it. Oh, sorry. I'll believe it when I see it, is my take.
Right.
Would it rock, though? Oh, my God, dude. Oh, my God.
When they say remasters, are you guys wanting the Resident Evil 2?
No,
thing,
that's a remake. You know what I mean?
Okay, so I mean, again, sometimes people use them interchangeably. Are you guys wanting remasters or are you wanting remakes as a Metal Gear Solid fan?
Just fucking on my PS5, upscale to like 4K or whatever, running smooth, just like the same exact game, just upscaled, but playable on my modern devices is all I ask for.
Okay.
And in my opinion, this would be sweet because Konami, like, you know, the licenses, whatever, like they took them off the storefronts. They said they're going to put them back on at some point. They still are not up. What a swaggy way to come back and be like, I don't know why I said swaggy again, but here we are. What a way to come back and be like, hey, we aren't just putting these back up. We're putting them back up as remasters. I would kill. That would kill. Anyway.
Who?
What?
Who would you kill?
Moving on. I'm not going to go down this road. Holy Master Chief. Anyway. Sorry, Dan. Moving on to our next street meet. Spider-Man 2 gameplay soon. Inshallah soon, right? This comes from this is an even dicier one, but it's being reported on by bigger outlets. So I got to put this one in here. This comes from Millie A. Mand on Twitter, who tweets: Spider-Man 2 on PS5 is exceeding expectations for Marvel higher ups. Fluidity and visual punch is striking, according to an employee at Marvel, and gameplay is set to be shown very soon. Mayhaps at the Disney/Marvel event that is right around the corner. Who knows?
Interesting.
Whoa.
Who knows?
I hope so. Man,
Yeah.
I want to see this game so bad. I want this game so bad. Yeah, I would love to see some gameplay of this soon. I would love to see how they tackle Spider-Man and Miles, both Spider-Man, I'm sorry, in the same
Nice.
like universe fighting together. I would love to see how that works, if it's co-op or if it's like you're switching between the characters on the fly, like GTA for worse example. But yeah, that would be cool to see how they handle gameplay for this. So I hope
That would
fingers
be
crossed
that would be a really interesting gameplay mechanic if you're just like swinging around and then you can just hold down on the D-pad and just switch seamlessly switch to your spider people. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
I'm excited for the combat with these two. Like the first thing I thought of was like Arkham City, when you'll have those moments where you're like fighting like a group of enemies with, you know, maybe Nightwing is with you or whatever, and like when you do a finisher, like you'll do one together with them, and like that would be so sick with two Spider-Men. Yeah, I can't wait.
You know, it'd be even sicker is co-op Insomniac.
I don't know if I would like that. Legit, I don't know.
Really, even as an option?
Like I don't know if that would excite me.
That's crazy. I would love that.
I'm a sicko who loves single player.
That's fair.
Do we think that the campaign is gonna be Peter and Miles like being together all the time, or do you think it's gonna be more of a switch back and forth between them?
I think it'll be mostly like you'll be playing as one of them, and then like for the big huge moments they'll meet up, because then they can have that sort of, like, artificial excitement of like, oh, now they're together. Oh, we're both doing a mission now. That's insane. Yeah.
It could be some. Oh, go ahead, Christian.
Oh, please. I think we're going the same way, so you can go first.
Maybe. I was going to say it could be something like The Last of Us Part 2. I don't think we're going the same way.
No.
Like where you're playing as Ellie at one point, and then you switch over to Ab, but you're never actually playing as them together, and there's just like cutscenes that bring them together, which would be the worst possible outcome. But that could be an option that they take, where they separate the two gameplay wise.
I hope that's not it.
Yeah.
Am I in a position to lightly spoil like a gameplay mechanic of Spider-Man 1?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there are moments in Spider-Man 1 where like you obviously there's like the Mary Jane missions, but there are moments where you play as Miles too, right? In Spider-Man 1, and if I had to guess, I'd say that, Dan, that's a great question by the way. It probably focuses on the Peter aspect, with, you know, the Mary Jane missions being replaced with like Miles Morales missions, where it's like it's just Miles, but there are like obviously story beats where it's two of them together, doing whatever.
That'd be
Either
cool.
way, next year, man.
Excited.
Next year.
What if new worst case scenario, Ro? What if you play as Peter Parker in Spider-Man 2, and the only time you play as Miles Morales is that it's the same as the first one, where you're just walking around,
Oh my god.
and you only see Miles Morales in the suit in cutscenes?
Oh my god. No, they wouldn't do that. They couldn't do that.
I got another one for
That'd
you.
be amazing.
You ready? What if Black Cat was real, and she lived in
Oh.
Portland, Oregon,
Oh
and she,
wow!
and she knew
Your
about me,
neighbor?
and she knew. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Oh, she's my neighbor,
no.
but like she never talked to me. I just looked at her, and I'm like going outside to do laundry.
We're veering into After Dark territory. Uh-oh.
That's true. Yeah. Last bit of street meat. This comes from Naughty Dog Central. Thank you, Ro, for sending this my way because I completely missed it. Fans are speculating that art in The Last of Us Part 1 is indicative of Naughty Dog's new IP, seemingly would be a fantasy setting.
Heck yeah. I really hope so. Like I said when I shared this the first time, they did something similar for The Last of Us in Uncharted 3, where they had like a newspaper clipping hinting at like the outbreak. So it would be, and again, this artwork wasn't found in the original game, so it's interesting that they decided to add this when they didn't have to. They could have just up-res the posters that already existed.
Sure.
They decided to make new art, and I don't know where this is in the game, but it is interesting that it's all together on a vision board. I don't know if it's maybe it's someone's bedroom. I'm not sure, but
Right.
also
It
in
looks-
Sarah-
It looks like the
Yeah.
university section, I think.
okay.
I
Somebody-
think. Sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to also add that somebody also found in Sarah's bedroom at the beginning of the game, they added some stuff on the table, and one of the things is like an origami blue dragon, and in some of the posters there's a dragon in there, so it could be another hint to what that game is about.
That's pretty cool. I definitely think this is an intentional tease, because the thing that got for me is that I saw a couple of pictures floating around of just the posters. When I saw the full image, the fact that there's the Naughty Dog sticker right below it all on the wall, there's like a little sticker bomb Naughty Dog thing right underneath that, kind of puts it all into one little package for me, where I'm like,
Wait.
okay, this is kind of.
Is the Naughty Dog sticker not? Wait, that's
That's
in
the-
game.
That is in game.
No, that's the Telegram account because
That's what I thought. Okay, that's what I thought.
Naughty Dog
Is it?
IR. Yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah.
definitely thought that was in game. In which case, I was like, "There's no way that's not a tease."
Yeah.
Okay, that's my bad. I still think it's a tease, though. I still do. Like you said, Ro, it's not the same posters as before. So if this was just an up-res remake, everything else has been painstakingly recreated, except for these new posters. So, and that has been on the short list of rumors, right? We've heard sci-fi and we've heard fantasy. Those are the two things we've heard.
Yes,
So-
that's true.
Yeah, this is exciting. I would love to see them go in a completely new direction. And with how gorgeous their games are already, like, oh my god.
I will add in Naughty Dog we trust, but I am a little bit sad it's not a sci-fi game. That would oh. That would have been
to
peak
be
for me.
fair, we've got a lot of good sci-fi coming out. We're gonna be eating
That's
good. We
true,
got
that's
Starfield,
true.
we got Callisto Protocol, we got Dead Space remake.
What fantasy games do we have? Forspoken? Get out of here.
Wait, you're telling me?
Oh,
He's right behind me, isn't he? It's the news. It's the news of the week. Let's talk about VR. Dan sent this over in chat today. Thank you, Dan, because I missed it as well. Meta is expected to reveal a new Quest headset at its Connect live stream on October 11th. This is huge. One, because we've known about a new Quest forthcoming for quite some time, which didn't know when. But it's even bigger because they just increased the price of the original Quest 2. What are your thoughts on a potential Quest 3? What that price point could be, what it'll even look like, etc., etc.
Almost. Oh,
Go ahead, Dan.
Well, I was just gonna say, I almost wonder if they increase the price on Quest 2 just to prepare for this, so that they can set the price for Quest 3 at that new price. Is what I'm speculating. But maybe that would be kind of crazy, because then a month and a half later they're gonna, reduce the price again of the Quest 2. I don't quite know, but I feel like that might lessen the blow if they're like, hey, this is the same price as our current Quest, even though they just increased the price of it. But
Right.
I don't know.
I'm gonna go with the crazy theory here. All right,
Tell me.
This might be me overanalyzing it, but judging at this picture here, I've noticed that there are no eye cups when you got the Zuck looking at his people, his androids on the thing there. I almost wonder if they increase the price on the Quest 2 because the Quest 2 is going to be more powerful than this, and this is going to be an even more accessible, lowered price, trying to get even more people into the metaverse because they are pushing that so hard. I'm looking at this and I'm like, especially think of everything we've seen about the PlayStation, PSVR 2, Vive, and even Quest 2. This looks budget to me. Like if you're looking at this picture, like this does not look like the next step forward. This looks like we're coming in with a new even more accessible headset, coming in at an even lower price, and it has, it's just the bare bones sort of thing. I don't know. That's what I got when I first looked at this. But please tell me if I'm being crazy.
Do we know if that's actually like a tease for the next Quest, or is that just like an old image that they're just using as a placeholder? Because this is the tweet in reference to what Gage is talking about. It's from the Game Awards account.
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing, so I started searching it while you were talking, and I can't really find that picture.
To me, that looks like a new headset. I don't think I've seen that before.
Yeah, it's possible. But I am looking at CNET that says Meta's next VR headset is coming out in October. What we know about Meta Cambria, aka Quest Pro, is what it says.
Okay, Quest Pro.
That doesn't. Gage is onto something because I mean, granted, we don't know details, but like just judging off this one tease, this doesn't seem as pro as my Quest 2 because I can almost see like the corner of his eyes. Like that doesn't scream. It doesn't scream immersive to me.
To me, this seems like a pick up and go sort of like this is the VR for the person who's only got 15 minutes to play VR. You just put it on your head.
So look at the chat, what I just sent you guys, because it looks exactly like this render that's on CNET, and it looks really wonky. It's like it is weird looking. I'm very here. I can put it in the dock actually, right above Christian's here.
Yep, I see it.
But yeah, I'm like, what the hell? That's weird.
That does look like it.
Ski goggles.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you were saying, if you just like look to the right a little bit, you would see his pupils, and you could like look out of the glasses. But yeah, I mean, I would be down for a Quest Lite, I guess, like a more accessible version for this. I think that would be cool for certain types of gamers on a budget and stuff like that. But yeah, it's interesting to see that they're not going for the upgrade, which I thought would be the next step. But like the article says, it is called a Quest Pro, so I'm getting a little mixed signals with our discussion here. So I'm not sure what to expect. I guess.
Just jumping around the article, I saw an interesting point here where there's a quote from the article here that says, if the Cambria headset is more than $800, there's no way it will be as popular as the Quest 2 is now. Meta seems to be hinting that's not the point of Cambria, which means that game developers may not be as focused on the new hardware. I wonder if this is, maybe if it's not a Quest Lite, if it's maybe like a Quest sort of active, if you would, like a sort of more application-focused headset, which is why it wouldn't have those aggressive eye cups that are considered what you'd want for immersive, right? If this is designed for just like, your soccer mom or your dad that gets home from work and wants to do a few online workouts or whatever, like, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. You're right, Ro. There's mixed messaging here, right? Pro would lead you to believe like, okay, double the battery, double the pixels. This is epic. But then Meta's saying like, well, hold on, this actually isn't for gamers really. So yeah, this is very strange.
I want to know what the audience is like out there. Like, how many people are actually using VR headsets for non-gaming activities, for like, I don't know, YouTube Hangouts, or I guess, what Meta seems to really be focusing on, work meetings and stuff. I don't know if it's as big as the gamer pool and like how well it'll do.
Maybe not, but the active might be a lot of people are into the whole boxing and rock climbing and stuff like that. Like maybe that has a decent market share, but yeah, we don't really know stats. That's a good point.
That's funny. I'm saying this and I'm just scrolling on Twitter for Quest stuff, and I'm seeing a video of someone using a Quest to learn how to play the piano. It's like telling them where to look on the piano, like what notes are coming up. So
that's pretty cool.
And the market might be out there.
And the Quest teach me how to love?
No, but I can.
Yeah.
Moving on. How long will Call of Duty be multi-platform? Question mark. That is the big question. This is spawning from from an article from The Verge that was posted late last week. Phil Spencer wrote in a letter to Jim Ryan back in January saying that Call of Duty would still be available on PlayStation several more years, quote unquote, beyond the current Sony contract in place. As we've come to find out today, several more years isn't actually that much longer. As Jim Ryan tells GamesIndustry.biz, Phil only offered 3 more years beyond the agreement, calling the offer, quote, inadequate on so many levels, unquote. Jim, you are lucky you are getting 3 additional years, I would say.
Yep. Can we just take a step back, regardless of how you feel about whether or not it should be multi-platform? What an incredibly unprofessional thing to do. To me, this kind of seems like Jim Ryan really wants to keep COD on PlayStation, obviously, because they get 30% off of the bajillion copies that it sells every year. But this, to me, almost seems like he wants to stir the hornet's nest and get some drama stirred up to sort of pressure Xbox into this. Because for him, in his response, he says, like, oh, I feel that this was supposed to be private, but Phil talked about it. I mean, he talked about it in a very professional, like, yeah, we're hoping to keep COD on multiple platforms. We're hoping to extend the thing beyond. It wasn't like he aired their dirty laundry or anything like that. Like, it was very much PR speak. So for Jim Ryan to come out and say this, it's very, I don't know. This was kind of sleazy, I thought. I thought this was really sleazy nonsense from Jim, to be honest. I'm not a huge fan of this.
Go ahead, Dan.
The thing I was thinking of just a little while ago is, at the end of the day, Microsoft wants money. So, like, if Call of Duty is still selling very well on PlayStation 3 years from now, they're going to keep it on PlayStation. Like, I don't see them taking it away if, you know, it's still selling 15 million copies on PlayStation 5, personally. So, I
have some numbers for you.
Sure.
Sony was Activision Blizzard's largest customer in 2020, accounting for 17% of its sales, or approximately $1.37 billion. In contrast, Microsoft was the 4th largest customer, behind Apple and Google, for 11% of its sales, or $890 million. So, I mean, of course, this is from 2020, so numbers may have changed, but it seems like, and it's not just Call of Duty, but Call of Duty is the biggest Activision product. I'd argue. One of.
By a lot. No, absolutely. By a lot. That's not even close.
This would probably most definitely hurt PlayStation peeps if they did lose Call of Duty completely, which I don't think will be the case, but we'll have to wait and see.
No, because that's the thing. Once Xbox owns it, it would hurt Xbox to not mess it on those sales, right? And I want to bring up something that Gene Park over at Washington Post brought up, because he got a really good tweet to this too, where he was very, very critical of Jim Ryan, but he was saying that this 3 years that he pitched him, it's probably a rolling deal that they have similar to Minecraft, where we're only promising you 3 years, but on 2.5 years into it, they'll re-up the contract for another 3 years. Like, that is probably how this was going to go. And I do want to take a step back. It's hard to separate it because, I mean, we're also invested into the world of video games. We talk about it, all that stuff. If this was any other industry, this would be extremely out of the ordinary for a major rival to be like, yeah, no, don't worry, we'll still give you access to this product that you want, that everybody wants.
Crazy.
Like, it is. It's nuts, right? So everybody's kind of saying, it's funny for me, and maybe that's where my bias is to people sort of siding with Jim Ryan on this or Sony on this, where I'm like, well, this wouldn't happen in any other industry. Like, you would expect, if you're paying $69 billion, nice, to keep Activision Blizzard, that you would want to keep your product. Like, I don't know, if GM bought Mitsubishi for $69 billion, they wouldn't be like, yeah, Subaru, you can actually still use Mitsubishi parts. That's fine. Like, no, in no other industry would this ever happen. So yeah, I feel like it's not going to go anywhere, but Jim Ryan, you got to settle down. All right.
Settle down, Jim.
Settle down, Jim.
There is also the additional factor that Phil is in the middle of acquiring Activision. He's got to be really careful with whatever words he puts out. He's got that lawsuit, and I think it's in the UK. Is it in Europe, or is that also here?
Yes. No, it's
the
UK.
UK.
The UK is the one that's really sort of scrutinizing the deal.
Regardless, yeah. He. I mean, we just talked about an article where he was talking about choice a lot, right? Or sorry, I'm confusing this. We didn't talk about it here. That was on Easy Achievers. Because I listened to Dan talk about this. Shout out Easy Achievers. But yeah, like, will Call of I mean, age-old question, age-old, but like a few months. Will Call of Duty come to Xbox Game Pass? And is that the illusion of choice that you're getting there, right? Like the incentive is like, yeah, it's still on PlayStation, but if you're on the Xbox platform, you're getting it as part of, if you're on Game Pass, you're getting it for free.
And I feel like in my mind, that's fair, quote unquote, to sort of, again, well, fair would be for them to take the thing that they own and just make it exclusive. But if you want it to be fair and what we want as the consumer, I feel like that's totally fair. And I think it will come to Game Pass. And I think that's when we'll see the Game Pass price hike, that is long overdue, because obviously nobody wants to increase price. It doesn't go over well, but as somebody who uses Game Pass regularly, that thing is extremely underpriced.
Dude, I didn't include this, but like, we say this, but they're also releasing a family plan, which is like astoundingly way cheaper for people to just squat up that way.
Right, absolutely. Which is why I think that once they have that family plan out there and people go, wow, this is even a better deal. And then they add a bunch of, the entire Activision Blizzard backlog and future games day one releases. I think that's when they'll be like, okay, see, look at how much we've given you. Now it's fair for us to increase the price, which I think is totally fair. So I think all these games will absolutely come to Game Pass, and I think it will come with a price hike.
I think it depends on how long it takes to get like whatever measures they got to hit for their subscriber numbers, because like obviously if this puts a huge influx of subscribers when they do the Activision stuff into Game Pass, then that may offset the costs of including those games or whatever the acquisition was for Activision. Like maybe they have metrics that say if we hit 100 million subscribers, I know that's a crazy number, but if we hit 100 million subscribers, then we're good, or I don't know. But I guess it'll depend on how quick that happens too.
See, the problem I have with that though is that like every time they acquire a new studio, and especially one as big as Activision, that number's got to go up for what they need to hit, right? Because you think of the development costs of Call of Duty, you've got 3 teams working on it simultaneously at all times. Each Call of Duty game is like what, a $200 million game, let's say, $150 million game at least. So I think you're right, Dan. Like I think it can become sustainable, but it's funny that every time there's a new announcement of Microsoft acquiring a studio, I feel like that goal gets pushed out farther and farther. And I feel like at the same time, they're not worried about it. I feel like Microsoft has really the last 6 years, 6 years, gone to Phil Spencer and been like, here's a blank check. Do what you need to do to make Xbox the #1 brand in gaming. So I think you're right. But at the same time, I also think clearly it's not a priority for them to make it profitable yet. Like they are playing the long game with this.
Shout out to Kirik in the chat. He said hello once more, gentlemen, and he was explaining the differences of a couple, few, several, and dozen. So thank you for that, Kirik. He says a few is 3 to 7, and several is 7 to 11. So
I appreciate that. I didn't understand what context you were saying this in, but now I remember. Yeah, the PlayStation thing. Yeah.
There was also a Tom Warren tweet that came back into circulation after this news came out, and it featured an interview where somebody who represented Microsoft was on CNBC, and they were discussing how they want their games to be on other platforms like Minecraft, and they want this acquisition to be similar to that, where they want Call of Duty to be on PlayStation and potentially on Nintendo consoles. We want these games to be everywhere as much as possible. This is back in February, so things can change. But I think it is interesting because all this time they've been saying that we want Game Passes on as many platforms as possible. We want the games that we have on as many platforms as possible. And again, these things can change when they see those big money signs. But I think it's safe to say that that Call of Duty is going to be on more places than Xbox for now.
Yeah. I agree.
Dan?
I just thought of something crazy, but what if Phil?
What if we
went
kissed?
to-
Oh, sorry.
This is kind of a crazy concept, but like, what if Phil went to Jim Ryan and said, "Hey, I'd like to do this for an additional 3 years, but I would also like to continue that. But in order to do that, I'm going to need a Game Pass app on the PlayStation."
No chance.
console."
Zero fat freaking chance that Jim Ryan would say yes to that. That man
maybe
is
that-
stubborn.
I would say yes to it, but I think you're onto something, Dan. Absolutely.
And maybe that's why we're in the situation we're in, because there was like rumblings that there was other circumstances that were holding them back from making it longer or whatever. So
For sure, and I think you know what? I think if that were true, Jim Ryan wouldn't want to say that he said no to that, because I think a lot of PlayStation gamers would be really open to the concept of getting Game Pass, right? Because it's a much better deal than the PlayStation alternative, and it's not even the same really service, right? But yeah, I think you're onto something, Dan. I think you're onto something. But at the same time, Christian, you're absolutely right. Jim Ryan in my over my dead body.
yeah.
Because if Game Pass ends up on PlayStation, that's a lot of other games that just don't sell on PlayStation,
All those
True.
third-party multi-platform games. Yep.
which would be
Why
interesting.
why would you buy Back for Blood on
Yeah.
PlayStation Store if you
When
can
you
just
get it on Game Pass?
Yep.
That's true.
That'll be interesting though. I would love to see that.
Before we move on, I have another just kind of offhand question, off the cuff. If Call of Duty, if and when I should say, because it will. I think they said they will. Anyway, when Call of Duty is on Game Pass, will you see a subscriber boost?
yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't think there's any situation where you wouldn't. The more interesting question is, do you see a sales hit to Call of Duty, right? Because I think a lot of people would still want to buy it a la carte. You still have a lot of people that like this is something that I've mentioned before in the podcast, but I worked at GameStop in a very rural area. There is a large, again, the people that aren't on Twitter, there is a large majority of gamers, or I don't know if majority, but there's a large group of gamers that, you know, will buy games based on whether or not they can play it online or offline, and that they don't want any of the subscription crap. So to me, the more interesting question is, does Call of Duty take a noticeable sales hit? Because if it's only like $1 million off of the regular, right? If it sells 16 million instead of 15, and they get all the Game Pass boosts, right? To me, that's a huge win for Microsoft.
Time will tell. Damn. Y'all are everyone here is a video game insider today. I love it. That does it for news of the week. Let's move on. We got a quick fantasy critic draft check-in. We got one game releasing this week. That is Splatoon 3. And somebody picked it up on our fantasy draft. None other than the Nintendo aficionado. Check him out. Look at it. Visual watchers. Check this out. Thank You Games picked up Splatoon 3, and that is currently sitting at an 84 on OpenCritic, possibly netting Roshan 14 points. Big dub.
Yes. Let's go. Hopefully it stays that way.
Can we just talk about how Ro is quietly like climbing up the pole here in Fantasy Critic, you know?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
It's like I said, me and Ro are fighting for second place.
What am I at right? Oh, 14 points. That still won't get me. Oh, well, it will get me to 100, right? Or no, it won't. No, it won't.
No, it'll get you at 90.
Yeah.
I gotta say,
getting there. I just want to break 100.
I cannot believe Dan blew through every single cent of his budget. He's at $0.
I spent I knew I had no more picks left. I had already maxed out my picks, so I just spent the rest of my money on my final pick, which was Pentiment. So,
oh, that's the indie game coming to Xbox.
Yes. Yep. And it's been getting good previews.
Yeah, I hope it gets delayed.
Jeez.
I'm kidding. Okay. Before we get to the topic of the show, we're going to stop at what you got for me. Let's start with Daniel.
Yo, I've been playing me some The Last of Us Part 1, and it's actually it's very interesting. I played like 2 hours of it, and as I've told you guys before, I have very little memory of it, even though other than I love the game, because I haven't played it since it came out in 2013 on PlayStation 3, So 9 years ago, my memory is not the greatest as it is. So that's a trip for me to remember. But having a lot of fun with it thus far. The opening, it's interesting, Christian. We were talking about this. The opening cinematic piece, whatever you want to call it, didn't hit me as hard because of me knowing the outcome, which the first time I played it was like super emotional and I was a wreck. This time playing it, I was like, okay, I totally, it's still probably a fantastic experience for someone playing it for the first time, but it lessened the impact for me, I guess, the second time. So sorry, Christian.
I gotta disagree here. You heartless bastard. And obviously, I'm kidding. If it didn't hit for you, that's totally fine. To me, when we were talking about this, we're playing a different game. I think it really hit different for me, and I'll be spoiler free as possible. Like knowing that outcome, I was able to like take on that game in a different way, where I was like really focusing on the performances this time around and seeing like the emotion that those performances were giving me was like. I was mentally preparing myself and failing earlier than previous times I've played this game. Where like very early on, I was like, I know what's coming, and then everything that Naughty Dog did in part one, which is like the sound design and the lighting, immersed me in it even more. So I was like, I know what's coming, and this is hitting in a much different way than I played it the first time. I was like, Dan, this kind of rocks. Anyway, sorry, Dan.
No, that's fair. I also just want to point out I've been playing on fidelity mode instead of performance mode, and it has a really cool thing so it's in 4K resolution, but then it's 40 frames per second, but it's unlocked frame rate. So like you may get a little more than 40, or maybe it may drop a little bit. And I feel like the experience has been very good. Like I've been very positive with it. The responsiveness of the controls feels really good at that level, which I'm wondering if they're doing something like what Ratchet and Clank did, where the controls actually respond in 60 hertz or
polling rate, like it's kind of like
but the actual on screen is set to 40. But yeah, it's really great actually, and it feels a little bit more cinematic. I feel like because that was I think one complaint I had from going from The Last of Us on PS3 to PS4. They did the 60 FPS mode on PS4, which in theory sounds great, but then I started playing Left Behind and I was like, man, this feels too crisp because like it loses some of that cinematic flair, I feel like. So
dude,
but yeah,
I could not agree with you more. I did play the remastered version. I did one playthrough of it, and I didn't like it as much. I mean, it played better, obviously, like smoother, but I think I ended up switching, or I don't know what I did, but yeah, there's something to that. Like, granted, I know there's frame rate dips and whatever, and it's not the smoothest, but it is closer to like 24 frames per second, which is what film cameras are filmed at, right? And it does give it that cinematic feel that I think is lost when you boost the frame rate. Anyway,
you guys ready for this?
Yeah.
Tell me.
When this game comes out on PC, I'm gonna play it at 120 frames per second. I'm gonna be
Hell
running
yeah,
around as
dude.
I'm gonna be quick sniping, slide canceling all over the place.
Oh, I'll save it. I just remembered something. I got really
That's all
excited
I
for
got.
this.
Oh, you didn't play anything else, Dan?
Oh shit, I completely forgot. Yeah, we did play the greatest video game of all time, Halo 3, which I'll let everyone else talk. Well, I'll let Christian and Ro talk about because they haven't played it before. So, yeah.
Yes,
greatest video game of all time.
That is PXN's greatest video game of all time. 2000's video game of all time.
2000s,
exclusive.
Exclusive. Yeah.
Yes, that's true.
Simmer down here, boys.
Beating out Halo 2 and
only because I wasn't there.
Ro, what you got for me?
I have been playing, Halo 3, the PXN's greatest exclusive to the 2000s. I enjoyed this one a lot more than... Shouldn't say a lot more. I enjoyed this one more than Halo 2. And the gameplay is what I liked more. But the story of Halo 2, I think, is better and more entertaining and interesting than Halo 3. But the gameplay itself is starting to, feel not dated to me. I had a good time playing this with the boys. There was a level at the end that I completely just ate the dirt on, and I got to watch it. But Christian was playing it, and it felt like I was watching like a cinematic almost. It was like it was good. It was good stuff. Good gameplay from Christian at the end there. But yeah, it was a fun game to play. I love the vehicle combat in this one. All around good times. So I'm excited for, I guess, Halo 4 if we're not doing or Reach. Is it Reach next? If we're not doing
We're
ODST.
definitely doing ODST.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
so
ODST next.
I guess
yeah.
ODST is next then. So I'm excited for that to see if there's any even more improvements. I assume those two games are pretty close together in release.
2 years. Yeah, 2
apart.
years.
So maybe it won't be that crazy, but I'm excited to play it because I've heard the story for that one's really cool. So hype for that one. I played Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which is a game that I've been putting off for quite some time, and it's finally clicking. I'm enjoying it so far. The map is horrible. I have no idea where I'm going sometimes. like there's quest icons at the top. It's terrible. I mean, that's not why it's terrible, but like it's bad. I can go into more detail, but I won't. It's just a bad map thing, and it's very confusing. But besides that, the gameplay is pretty cool. I like the characters. I think this is people's least favorite Xenoblade out of the three, but I'm enjoying it right now. I'm excited to get into 3 when I'm finished this one. And I haven't played The Last of Us Part 1. I want to. I don't have a PS5, but I watched the cutscenes. I watched like an entire playthrough on YouTube because I couldn't help myself. And watching the ending to The Last of Us Part 1 and seeing those new animations in Ellie's face and Joel's face too, but in Ellie's face, dude, I want to play this game so bad. It's Naughty Dog, I love you. I love you.
Yeah, I finally reached Pittsburgh, and I was telling my friend Islam that I realized I'm playing this game slowly, and I don't mean that as in like I'm not sitting down to play games. I mean like literally like I'm playing this at the walking pace that I played RDR2 in, where I'm like simulating myself as Joel, where I'm like literally like the thumbstick on my controller is like maybe halfway, where I'm like really just walking around. And this is a great time for me to mention my house rules for The Last of Us that I told Dan to remind me. I'm a freaking weirdo when it comes to The Last of Us. During the original release on PS3, like when you started up the game, it plays that menu theme, that beautiful theme that Gustavo Santaolalla wrote and performed. And because obviously of the HDD, when you load your most current save to like continue game, it takes a while for that load to pop up, right? So you would have to sit there with the fireflies on the screen just like coming at you as the score plays. And that I actually really enjoyed that. Like that would always put me in the mood and like really like set the tone for what game I was going to get into. That I realized for PS5, like I didn't want to lose that. So I sit at the menu and watch the window and listen to the theme, and then right as that song is ending, I'll then load the game, and like pretty much as right when it ends, like I'm in the game. So it's like a nice kind of thing for me to get into the game. I do 2 more things I want Dan or your guys' reactions on. 1, just like The Last of Us Part 2, I do not use a listen mode ever. So it's only just what I'm seeing and doing my best to avoid enemy AI. I also don't reload my guns until like I am completely out, because I'm role playing that I don't want a mag dump like in Call of Duty where you get rid of the whole mag and like you still have all your bullets. That to me is like I really want to be in The Last of Us.
Right.
Yeah. There's some exceptions where like the revolver, I think he only drops the bullets that you use, so I'll do that when I find ammo. But other than that, yeah, I'm not reloading until like an encounter where I need to reload.
Does that mean you're playing on permadeath mode then, Christian?
Fuck no, I'm not. Absolutely not.
Oh, wait a minute.
No, I'm not a sadist.
I want to do something like that. I've only played without listen mode once, and it was really cool. It was entertaining. I don't know if I would ever do that for a first playthrough. Obviously, I didn't. But for The Last of Us Part 1, I think it'll be fun to try a couple of new things for that playthrough. Yeah, that sounds awesome. I love that. I love that you just like listen to the soundtrack before starting.
Yeah, dude. I don't know. I also, before I get into the Halo stuff, because I want to bring that up as well, I did also get a new platinum this week. My 30-something-ish platinum. Can you guys guess? You won't guess. I'll just tell you. It's Fall Guys.
Corey. Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
I platinum Fall Guys, so I'm done with it. But I'm going to be back.
You got 5 wins in a row at one point.
I did. I'm a real gamer.
Wow.
Nice. Damn.
Let's all clap for me.
Damn.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Gage, before we let you go, Halo 3. Thank you, bro. Halo 3. I have to start off something positive. Okay, you ready, Dan?
Sure.
I understand the love for it because honest to God, there is something really special about playing a campaign with the lads together. Like that is like I'm finally understanding like that is why people love Halo so much. Like I can literally imagine the number of times anyone has like sat down and like, hey, you guys want to play some Halo and run through the campaign together with like modifiers or a harder difficulty and just having like a Saturday night with the boys. Like I get it. I understand it.
Hell yeah.
Here comes my criticisms.
However,
I don't know if it's for me. Something about it, and I've realized that like I told Dan this when we were playing off air. Like I miss Arbiter. Like Halo 2, like that felt like a truly special game. Like Gage was mentioning, like that is very lore heavy, very story heavy, where it's like not just Chiefs game but also Arbiter, and they feel like compelling characters. I never felt that in Halo 3, where like that was gone to me. Granted, I'm playing with friends, so like I'm missing that, right? I know, Dan, I'm sorry. But I never felt like that pull for me to like really care. And that kind of sucked. And that's why I think for me, like Halo 2 gets the edge over Halo 3, despite Halo 3 having better gameplay, moment to moment gameplay. The only thing I'm missing from Halo 3 also is like how beautiful like the environments were in Halo 2, like the cityscape. What does Bungie do? What do you call them?
Oh,
I can't remember.
Skybox.
The skyboxes are phenomenal, dude. And some of those moments in Halo 2 were inspired.
Yeah, Bungie. I mean, let's just shout out Bungie in general, right? Because somebody brought it. I think it was Rashan brought it up that in Destiny, it's the exact same. Like Bungie, just for some reason, their art department, when it comes to skyboxes, they just know how to make it. And it's such a small thing that, like, I'm sure a lot of gamers will overlook or not even pay attention to. But like you said, Christian, when it hits, it hits. And there are certain things in Halo 2, like High Charity and stuff like that.
High Charity, dude.
Absolutely gorgeous. Like, and it just kind of immerses you in the world. So yeah, shout out to Bungie for their skyboxes because they're nuts.
I will also say, you said you weren't influenced, but I feel like you are a little bit influenced by the remaster of Halo 2 as well, because yes, Bungie's skybox is phenomenal throughout the entire series. However, comparing OG Halo 2 skyboxes to Halo 3, very big difference.
Fair.
But yes, I completely agree. Bungie did great work with skyboxes.
Now, sorry, go ahead.
The other thing I was also thinking of that I didn't mention is just like there are like I mentioned this briefly. Like there are inspired moments that it like did stick with me in Halo 2. The one in particular was, granted, maybe it's a little bit repetitive, but like going through those like vertical hallways of the library with the like 2001: A Space Odyssey-esque music, like where it's like really haunting. That is truly an inspired level. Like I remember that moment, and like it was great. I was getting a little spooked out just playing with Gage. Granted, I had a gummy, but whatever. And and I missed that in Halo 3. But anyway.
Right. Now, I mean, Dan, I know you and I have talked about this a million times, but it's just now that we're getting, fresh perspectives, it's kind of sparking things in my brain. I'm almost kind of articulating and thinking about why I like Halo 2 more than Halo 3. And Christian, I want you to maybe tell me if you got the same vibe, but I feel like with Halo 3, again, still a good game, and as Dan and I have said multiple times, like they're very close. It's this number 1 and number 2 for Dan and I, which one would we like better. But for Halo 3, hearing you talk about it, I feel like the reason I don't like Halo 3 as much is that the entire game feels like a third act. Like, especially playing it back to back with Halo 2,
yes.
Right? Halo 2, you get all that sort of plot development, and like you said, you get that character with the Arbiter, and there's reasons why the Arbiter is not as featured in Halo 3, and that's because fucking man babies ruin everything. But the entire game kind of feels like a third act. Like there's not a lot of lore. It's just kind of like you're going from one thing to the next. And in a video game format, I think maybe that's why it doesn't work for me, is that the third act is, it's 6 hours, 8 hours, however long it was when I originally played it for the first time. Whereas, like you said, in Halo 2, it's kind of giving you reasons to care because you're developing the plot. And then Halo 3, if it were a movie, it would be the last, 30 minutes of it, but it's not. It's an entire game. So it kind of feels like you're just going through it. And we were talking about the pacing, right? When you were playing it, like the pacing is nonstop in Halo 3. Like it's very little time to rest, very little. Like you got a lot of cutscenes in Halo 2 of people sitting down and talking and having meetings. But in Halo 3, it's like, okay, we need to go do something right now. What are we going to do? We're going to do this. Okay, let's go do it.
Dan,
I think
please, yeah.
I think you're actually spot on with that assessment, Gage. I would agree that like Halo 2 is like a part 1, Halo 3 is part 2. I think that's a really good analogy, and they actually handled a part 1 and part 2 properly, unlike Naughty Dog, because
you haven't even finished the game. You can't even say that.
Because they killed main characters. No, this isn't a spoiler. They killed main characters from a character that was established in part 1. They didn't just randomly show up a new character in part 2 and say, "Here you go, kill this guy real quick that you love and freaking adore so much."
Here's my response. Get over it. Keep playing it. Because I played 3 Halo games already.
That's fair. That's fair, Dan. That's a fair deal.
The Halo games take like what, 4 or 5 hours to.
But he's playing 7 of them.
That's true. That's true.
That's true.
Before you finish out, Gage, I do want to say, like,
I haven't gone yet.
That's what I'm saying. So what did I say? Anyway, whatever. 2, I want to reply to you as well. Halo 2 for me isn't afraid to be sci-fi, and that's what I found really cool about it. Where I never felt like Halo 3 gets the time to really dive in that. I mean, obviously it's a sci-fi game. Like the gameplay is obviously very sci-fi, but in terms of story, I never felt it, and I missed it.
Right. In Halo 3, you mean?
I missed it in Halo 3. Yeah, I enjoyed it in Halo 2. Yeah.
No, it's funny because I know this is absolute blasphemy for Dan to hear, but in a perfect world, I would love like the Halo games to have been made by like Naughty Dog. Like I would have loved to get more story and less like I almost feel like the story of Halo. Okay, and this is coming from somebody whose Halo is my favorite franchise as much as it is Dan's, and I know this is gonna make Dan lose his shit. But like to me, I always feel like Halo has been. I don't know. I'm not even gonna say it. The story has never reached its full potential, and I feel like maybe that's because of it being a first-person shooter. Like. There are certain scenes in Halo 2 specifically where I'm like, and the themes that it never really gets to explore. Halo 2 is about like religious extremism and indoctrination and misinterpretation, all these really big themes, and you only ever get hints of that. If Naughty Dog made a Halo game, if Naughty Dog made it Halo 1, 2, and 3, oh man. I think those would be the greatest games of all time. I
think like a BioWare like writing team would have been like really cool. Like more kind of Mass Effect.
Mass Effect, yes, like an expanded universe. I would love an RPG in the Halo universe, and we'll get into this later.
I'm so sorry, Dan. I'm so sorry.
Gage is a Halo fan, and you just said that.
I know that's the most blasphemous shit I've ever seen. It did feel bad coming. It tastes like vinegar coming out of my mouth. It makes you feel better.
Also, don't forget, Halo also has some of the best multiplayer out there, and I think Bungie would be the only one that could have handled that properly.
That's fair.
A pretty complicated
imagine Uncharted 3 gameplay for.
Oh hell yeah, bro! Now we're talking.
No, no.
I just want Halo to be first person. Is what I want.
Here, before Gage goes, here's my summary of Halo 3. You ready? Oh, I'm Cortana. I'm lonely and I'm horny. I need you to come through the little butthole hallways and come save me, baby. Halo.
What the?
I love it. Love it. That was spot on.
Gage, what you got for me? I'm gonna clip this.
Hell yeah. I'm sorry. I'm still coming down from that. That was that threw me off a little bit. Yeah.
Flustered a little bit.
We'll go with that. Yeah, we'll go with flustered. Okay. I played new expansion out for Back 4 Blood. Dived into that. I feel like I should preface this, and again, this came from a conversation with Daniel, the man of wisdom, except for when it comes to Halo. Is that I feel like I should explain to the audience because I keep talking about how I'm playing Back 4 Blood constantly, and I'm sure there's a lot of people listening like, how the fuck are you playing this? The game plays very differently from PC to console, and this is something that Dan and I talked about at length because I kept trying to get him to play it with me, and he'd be like, nah, and I didn't really think about it until you mentioned how poorly or how janky the game is on console, and like you said, specifically the aiming and how it feels. So I just want to preface that. All right, on mouse and keyboard, the game is it definitely feels better. It feels faster, especially at a high refresh rate. All that stuff. But anyways, new expansion for Back 4 Blood. Jumping into that, having a lot of fun. very difficult, which is a welcome change because I kind of breezed through the rest of the campaign on similar difficulties. But so that's pretty fun. I'm glad to see this game is still getting content, and I'm glad that as much as I would have preferred all this content to be free for everyone, Turtle Rock is kind of doing this thing where if you're playing with somebody who owns the DLC, everybody in the party can experience all the DLC.
Nice.
So that stuff is a welcome sort of feature. And then aside from that, I played Halo 3 with the lads, and it was a great time. And Christian, I'm glad that you said that about how you can understand the love, because it is absolutely that. It's playing with your boys Saturday night. You guys want to do Legendary All Skulls on, and then you play that for 30 minutes, and then you throw your controller at the wall and don't do that ever again. But no, yeah, playing through on Heroic, playing through on Legendary, and then you get to the maybe you get to the Saturday night where everybody has a few beers and you just roast the fuck out of the game while you're playing it. It's just it's the replayability and it's the sandbox nature of Halo, which is also, I think, something that is really special that nobody hit on, that is kind of really fun about Halo campaigns, is because, like Ro was saying, we were watching Christian play this final Warthog run, and he happened to get an extremely cinematic one, which, because of how the game is rendered and how it's very sandboxy in nature, sometimes you get a Warthog run that's super easy, and then sometimes, like what happened to Ro and I, we got fucked up like 3 times in a row, and we got to a point where we couldn't respawn because every time we were driving, a giant piece of the ring would fall off and knock us off or whatever happened. Like, that is the part of the charm of Halo that I love, and that definitely helps with replayability, and like you said, Christian, playing with the boys. So
I had a perfect last mission. I can't lie. Like, I was lucky.
It was really, it really kind of worked out. There's tons of times where pieces would just miss your Warthog and stuff like that. It looked very cool from the spectator's point of view.
Yeah.
Dude, Christian, you also blew my mind because I've played that mission. Yes. I don't know how many times, and I had no idea that you could take this path up to the left. You started going up there, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be a disaster. We're going to be dead. And then you just kept driving, and I'm like, what? I didn't even know that you could go up this way. I've played this hundreds of times. It's my favorite video game of all time. How did I not know that?
This is incredible. So I'm gonna add to this and this is gonna sound like bullshit, but legitimately, I didn't know you could not go up. So I haven't played Halo 3 as much as you have. I've probably played it countless amount of times. I genuinely did not. I thought up was the only way you could go. So to hear you say that you thought going to the, I guess it's what, down and to the right is the other way?
Yeah.
That you thought that was the only way you could. Like, I genuinely thought that like, I didn't know that was there at all. So to hear you get flabbergasted, and then for me, because I was spectating because Rashan killed us 3 times. Yeah. Like, wait, you can go up? I started moving the camera around, and I saw that pathway down to the bottom, and I was just letting you have your moment. But I was like, holy fuck, I didn't know you could go down and to the right. That was kind of cool.
All I have to say is, you're welcome.
Hell yeah.
It's time for topic of the show. Speaking of Halo, an infinite
some feelings, boys.
No, I don't know if that's going to be true. We'll see.
No, I'm joking.
An infinite amount of problems with Halo at 343i. What industries?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
343 Industries? Question mark. This kind of is going to be an interesting one because there's a lot of layers to it. And Dan's our insider, so he's going to uncover some of the stuff, some of the gaps in my knowledge. This is all starting from the Halo Infinite fall / winter roadmap that was recently released. We got to look at season 3, which is coming in November and goes through March, and then the Echoes Within, which I think is season 4. If I have that right, I can't zoom into the picture very well. Which starts
season 3.
Season 3. Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, season 3 starts next March, right?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. Which of course makes this current season it 10 months total, I think, for season 2, with this new delay. A lot of thoughts here. However, where do we even start? For general thoughts on the delay, just in general. Dan, I want to start with you because you're the person that I think plays Halo Infinite like still almost daily, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, obviously disappointing because it's not like I wanted this to be delayed or anything. And obviously I think there's, like you said, a lot of challenges behind the scenes as we'll dig into here in a little bit, but it's 10 months is a long time. Like their original announcement for seasons was supposed to be 3-month seasons, and each season has gotten delayed to 6 months. So season 1 lasted for 6 months. Season 2 was supposed to last for 6 months, but now this additional 4-month delay means it's a 10-month season, which is not great, especially when at the end of our season, last season, we were already grinding or chomping at the bit, hoping for more content well before the end of the season happened. And yeah, at the end of the day, it's not great in general for the health of the game, because you're not getting new gameplay, you're not getting new maps, no new guns, you're not getting new content being infused. Although I will say, you're not getting no new content, because you are getting some content. They do have in-season events. Like there's one right now happening called the Yappening, which is actually really fun. It's a really fun event. But the problem is that that event is not enough to last for an entire season.
Sure.
Like 2 or 3 events throughout 10 months is like, that's not very good at all. And there is 10 free unlocks for that, but again, that's nowhere close to what it needs to be. So yeah, overall a disappointment in terms of your original question.
Gage, how are you feeling? Because you're kind of you're a longtime Halo fan, maybe a lapsed Infinite fan. I don't know, in terms of multiplayer.
Yeah.
And like this is supposed to be a big live service game that I feel like is losing player base. How are you feeling on this?
Yeah, I think it's bleeding players, and it has been for a few months now. Yeah, I agree with Dan. General thoughts, disappointment for sure. I have uninstalled the game on principle, as opposed to being a toxic piece of shit on Twitter, which some people are. And we'll talk about that in a bit. Yeah, no, I am very disappointed, and we'll get into some of these. A lot of what I have to say has to do with these questions coming up, so I'll just leave it for now. I don't know if anyone else has anything to say for Infinite, but general thoughts, disappointed. I think that yeah, we'll get into it. I'll let you lead the conversation. General thoughts, very
yeah. And this, thank you. This is like a question I think all of us can really engage with, which is, of course, 343. I think verbatim was that they said that they're currently not working on local co-op. To then which outlets are saying they ran with it and said it's canceled. I think we had a private discussion saying none of us, I don't think, really agree that it's actually canceled. More like, we can't focus on this right now, and we'll get back to it at some point. We just don't want to put a date on it because we don't want to make promises. So maybe you'll see this late next year, and that'll be nice. I think maybe
Right.
Twitter discourses where this has gone too far, where people like, I think Nick Merckx was coming out and saying that like these people don't care about Halo, which I think Dan, when I think quote tweeted, like, that's just wrong. Obviously, these people care about Halo. Like they want to make a good game. Like obviously, top of the conversation should be like, these devs care about their game. Obviously, it's just that they maybe just need help. To which I want to ask, like, is losing local co-op right now a big deal? I'm not convinced.
No, I'm gonna jump in here quickly. I don't. So this is tough because Halo definitely has a legacy with couch co-op. I mean, Halo 1 specifically, that's what it was known for. It was known for LAN parties and for couch co-op, and it has kind of become a staple. Whether or not it's still as used as it was back then, I don't believe it is. I'm sure that Microsoft has, or Xbox 343, whoever, has the stats to see that, and I'm sure that it's not used as much as it was. But the problem is that it's just so intrinsically linked to the legacy of this franchise, to the history of it. So it is kind of an easy thing to latch onto, especially if you're somebody who's already angry. Because there is a lot to be genuinely angry about. I think this is something that's kind of getting thrown in. To me, couch co-op right now is kind of like them saying, you know what, we're not going to paint the sails of our ship. We have 15 holes in it, so we'll do that thing later. And yes, we all talked about it privately. To me, his statement I very much took it as in it's on hiatus. It is completely
Sure.
stopped. We are not touching it, but it is not outright canceled, right? It can come back in the future. We will work on it, and who knows? Maybe it'll be like, hey, it's coming back, but it's not coming back on Xbox One. Who knows what the reason is? Because people can. It's important to point out people can play co-op through glitches and through modding. Right now, the game it does work for the most part. Right now, you could on your retail Xbox One through some trickery play couch co-op right now without any sort of game breaking bugs. But yes, is it a priority right now? Absolutely not. I don't think so, and I think they realize that. Sorry, Dan, I saw you were gonna jump in there.
No, you're totally fine. I completely agree. I think it's also interesting because people no longer can have conversations about this game because people just go way off like kilter. Like if you're angry about this game, they're going off, like just won't listen to any reason, nothing. So what I will say is I saw the Act Man, which I'm not a huge Act Man fan, for a little bit of, putting that out there. But he posted on his Twitter account, I will no longer play Halo Infinite. I will not support it until they add split screen co-op, because Bonnie Ross made us a promise in 2017 that we would always have split screen co-op. I want to clarify that, because actually what Bonnie Ross said back then was in response directly to what happened with Halo 5, which Halo 5 had no split screen multiplayer in Halo 5. So in response to that, Bonnie Ross said, we will always have split screen. So not co-op. She never said the word co-op. She said split screen in every Halo game moving forward. In my opinion, like the biggest pinnacle of Halo split screen has always been multiplayer, because you have those LAN parties with friends and you'd hook up all these consoles and you have people literally dividing the screen with cardboard and stuff to stop people from cheating. That's, in my opinion, the biggest legacy of Halo. I don't even have any memories of me going over like my cousin's house, which is my earliest memories of playing Halo, playing campaign. We always played multiplayer when I would go over there. Not to say that there weren't people that did that, but in my eyes, that was always the biggest legacy. And I just thought that was important to point out. Like, Bonnie Ross didn't explicitly say that co-op campaign split screen would be in the games moving forward. She just said split screen would be. So I do think it's important. Obviously, that's a nitpick, and we're like pulling words out and everything.
I would say that she said that in response to multiplayer being absent. But if the quote, and I believe it is, if the quote is saying split screen will be in Halo going forward, to me that says like every mode. Like it will have split screen co-op and it will have split screen multiplayer. If the quote is split screen will be in Halo.
Yes.
And I just want to say, just to I guess not to counterpoint, but I am somebody, I do represent that part of the fan base that did grow up playing split screen campaign with my stepbrother at the time, and with my uncle. And I saw a post on the Reddit because I am kind of somewhat active in there because it can be toxic, although I think it's misrepresented sometimes. But there's a really good post that had thousands of upvotes, which is like somebody saying, as a parent who games, like, fuck, I really wanted to play this with my son. Right, my son was waiting with bated breath on this, looking at the roadmaps. Are we going to play this together? And now we can't. And to me, as somebody who wants to have a family one day, like, yeah, I'm totally thinking about that in the future. Now, obviously, by the time that happens, this will probably, hopefully, have been solved. But there are people who are in that situation now. So I think it's important that while it may not apply to us, like for me personally, if 343 came to me and was like, Gage, we're only taking you into consideration. Is co-op a split screen co-op a priority right now? I'd be like, fuck no. No, I don't give a shit. But Halo, I mean, especially to people who have grown up playing the entire franchise, like couch co-op is really important. Whether or not it's kind of like a cult thing, you know what I mean? Like a cult, like those cult classic movies where it's like they may not have a lot of fans, but the fans are really passionate about it.
Yeah,
I feel
sure.
like that's split screen in Halo, right? It's very important to a small subsect of this fan base.
And I think even if it isn't like a big deal to everyone, it is like another, I can't think of a metaphor, like it's just another nail in the coffin. Not to say that the game is dead, because I don't think it is, but I couldn't think of a better metaphor. Like it's another thing added on where it's like, man, they can't seem to like really get their footing, and it's been a while since this game is out. So much so that like I was listening to Kind of Funny, and Mike was talking about how like he feels that like Halo Infinite is like one of this year's biggest disappointments for him because he had high expectations for what it could have been, and because it had such a strong start for multiplayer when it came out, and then that dipped, right? And so this kind of leads to another question that I had written down is like, people were saying that like they need to hand Halo over to a new developer, and I also don't think this is the answer either, because I don't know if any just random studio could give it the love that like obviously I think 343 has for the Halo games. My concern would be is like, what is Microsoft doing to support them, if at all? And if they're not doing anything, why? And how can Microsoft step in to help these developers, which obviously can't do it like right now on their own? Like, give them some support, whatever they need to get the live service train rolling again.
Yeah, I think like I saw on Twitter somebody was saying, "Oh, give this to id Software; they'd make a banger campaign." Okay, I absolutely agree that I think id would knock out the gameplay and it would be a really fun game. But let's be honest, the Doom games are not deep in lore and story, and like those games are very base layer like story. Like there's nothing riveting to me about Doom's story. I love Doom's gameplay and I love playing it and it's so much fun, but I wouldn't go to Doom and say like, man, that story is amazing. So I don't know that id would be a great option, but in general, it's speaking generally about it. I think personally, it would be fine if they said, hey, we've got all these other studios. Does anyone want to make like an offshoot Halo game? Do you want to make like an ODST sequel, or do you want to make a third person shooter like Gage was talking about before? Make a third person action adventure. Like expand the property to make it bigger, like rather than focus on this one game, because then you're putting more pressure on 343 saying this game's got to be out because there's no other Halo games out there. Like people need to continue this franchise, and also puts pressure on them to release sooner because you have nothing else to point people towards. So in my opinion, the best avenue would be to give the franchise to other developers to do other stuff while 343 works on the main franchise and gets it where it needs to be at launch,
Sure. Yeah.
I'm going to jump in with a half agree with Dan. I don't have anything to add on with your second half of that, which is open up the franchise, open up the IP to other in-house studios. I think that's a great idea. And especially similar to what Creative Assembly did with Halo Wars, right? Like that was totally out of left field, right? Especially when it was announced. And it was great. Halo Wars is fantastic. And Halo Wars 2, I haven't played it yet. I've played the first couple missions, but I mean, Halo Wars 1 is a good RTS regardless of it being a Halo game. Like that was just a pleasant surprise. And although Halo ODST is very much a Halo game, no spoilers because obviously we're all going to play it very soon. In terms of atmosphere, it is tonally very different. And so, like you said, if somebody were to do a third-person action adventure or like a story-driven, or I never even fucking thought of it, but Christian earlier, a Halo RPG with a Mass Effect type sort of, that would be great. That would be perfect because the deeper lore in Halo is so ripe for the plucking. But we're going to scale back to 343, and with people talking about should it be handed off to another studio. I think there's more conversation to be had in that department. Now, going back to what you said about Twitter discourse. Twitter discourse is always fucking insane. It's always hyperbole, and you always only ever see the extremes. That's why Twitter's bad for you, and it's a bad social media site. I'm sorry. The algorithm, the whole site runs off of people getting angry. If you're angry, you're interacting, you're commenting more, you're spending more time on the app. That's just how it fucking works. I'm sorry. That's just it. So, is Twitter discourse going too far? Absolutely. Is there a conversation to be had with 343 needing help from another studio or another studio stepping in? I think so. And I think it's, you need to split hairs and get into semantics. So do I think another studio should just come in immediately and completely take over? No, obviously there would be a culture shock. There would be, like Dan said, would all the employees of Studio XYZ really care about Halo? No. But here's the problem: is that as we see with studio leads all the time, like say Cory Borlaug, who is not working on Call of Duty Ragnarok, God of War Ragnarok, which maybe some people don't even know that he's not. He's off doing his other thing.
Yeah.
I almost wonder. I'm part of the camp that I do think another studio should be involved at this point. I have not been happy with. There has yet to be a 343 game that has come out that I've sort of not had any issues with, and that might sound really entitled, and I don't mean like every game has to be perfect, but like Halo Reach came out. I liked the multiplayer. I liked the story. I liked the Forge. You know what I mean? Like there wasn't not all those things were 10 out of 10, but there was no sort of glaring issues. Kind of like you said earlier with like co-op being another thing on that list, right? There hasn't been a Halo game with a long list to me. What is that?
I raise you in armor lock.
Okay. Yes, one ability in the game was fucking stupid. You're absolutely correct. I'm not going to even argue that. Yeah, armor lock was fucking stupid and destroyed the sandbox. But 343, I mean, I just pulled up just to sort of check and make sure I wasn't totally off base, but just to check the Metacritic user scores to see what some of these games were. Like, I have ODST and Reach, which are the last two Bungie developed games. User score for Reach is 8.4, and user score for ODST is 7.6, which is, I mean, understandable. It was a full price game that was very much an iterative sequel, right? And then you have Halo 4, which is a 7.1, which is getting a little bit low. And like Dan and I have talked before, really fast-paced multiplayer, very Call of Duty inspired. Didn't really hit with the community, but wasn't awful. And then you have Halo 5 Guardians, which has a user score of 6.4. The Master Chief Collection, as we know, was broken for years. So I don't know, like I almost feel like with 343, you have toxic negativity and you also have toxic positivity, where there's a lot of people that are like, well, no, just give him another chance. And it's like, well, we're like 10 years into them having this IP and they have yet to have a really strong sort of all-out thing. And for a lot of people, Infinite was supposed to be that. And Dan and I played the flights, and back when all it was a flight, we were like, holy fuck, they did it. Like, this is, the core gameplay is fantastic. Wow. And then the game comes out and, you know, they're struggling with a lot of the live service elements. And I understand that people will say things like, oh, well, it's just the live service elements, but it's right. But like, they decided to do that though, right? So at a certain point, you kind of have to be held accountable. So deciding to make your biggest franchise for this console a live service game when clearly they are not ready for that. I mean, I don't know. I can't help but feel like, and sorry, I need to go on another tangent. So when I see a lot of criticism online and they say, is 343 inept? Say that's a really hurtful thing to say. But I almost wonder if like people, and again, the onus is on the person saying this, so they're not exempt from responsibility. But like, I know for me, when I criticize 343, I'm talking about the higher ups who actually make the decisions. The art department didn't decide to make Halo Infinite a live service game, right? The sound department, the sound editing, the coders, the engineers, the gameplay development team, they didn't decide to make that. It's the leads, right? And eventually the buck has to stop somewhere. And I am one of those people that thinks like, okay, maybe it's time for Bonnie Ross to maybe move to another studio or something to happen here, because I feel like, again, all these launches were Halo 4, Halo 5, MCC was a fucking disaster when it came out. And we still experience problems on PC, as Christian is very familiar with.
Don't worry, that's the Xbox
Windows
launcher.
Store.
Yeah,
But Dan's not totally wrong. Microsoft Store is
but I still
awful.
blame MCC because I can do that.
I mean, you can, but that's not what it's Windows Store that with that specific issue.
I totally apologize because I'm going on a total tangent here, but it's one of those things where it's like, what is the point of gathering all this talent if not to use it for, you know, your own studios, your own gain? Do I think that maybe, and circling back to my first point with, you know, would the entire team at id be wanting to work on Halo? Is there not a studio lead somewhere who has had success in first-person shooters, who's not working on anything right now, that could just come over and talk to the leads at 343 and say, okay, here's what we can do. Here's what we need to focus on. Is there anyone, does Xbox own any studios that has experience with live service that can come over and say, hey, here's what you need to focus on. Here's what you need to stop, because something is not working. Whether or not we agree on the severity that 343 has fucked up Infinite, something is not working. We always talk about how Infinite should have been delayed a year. Are we saying that Infinite should have been delayed to spring 2023 and then it would have been fine? Like, it just seems like there's always another thing, and then there's always one half of the fan base going ape shit. Well, I'm not going to say one half. I do think they're vocal minorities, as with most things. You have one vocal minority saying, this is awful, this is cancer, fucking hang them, burn them at the stake. And then you have another half saying, well, no, just give them, they messed up this time, but just give them another time. And it's like, well, it's been 10 years of this. Clearly there's something wrong somewhere in the totem pole. And again, I don't believe it has anything to do with the developers working there, you know, sweating over this game. Of course not. But something in the senior management, something is not working at 343. And I think that they do need an intervention with another studio, in my personal opinion. Sorry, that was a huge thing.
This man had an axe to grind, dude. He came here.
I think.
Yeah.
Sorry. I just want to say, I think you have a lot of great points, Gage, but I still, at the end of the day, and I'm not personally saying like, oh, let's give 343 one more chance. But I think personally, the two guys that are in charge of Infinite right now are the best people to be in charge. Joe Staten in charge of the campaign team, and now he's actually more focused on the entire team as a whole now, right, as well as the Master Chief Collection insider dude who created the insider program that literally fixed the Master Chief Collection and got it on PC. Those two being in charge now are the two best people for the job. Like, they literally are. I think the problem is they got on board way too late in the game. They literally started in August of 2020. So literally 1 year before the game launched, they got on board. And the rumors have it that the reason why we never saw multiplayer in 2020 is because the multiplayer was a completely different multiplayer. It was a hero-based shooter that was under the helm of Chris Lee, who was the former head of Halo Infinite at 343. And like, I know you reference Bonnie Ross a lot, Gage, and I totally understand that. She's at the helm, and at the end of the day, it's her responsibility to make sure shit's going correctly. But like, at the end of the day, she made that decision, or I'm assuming she made that decision to take Chris Lee off the project when the game was delayed another year, because he took Halo down a path where it didn't belong. Now, you could also argue, why did it take Bonnie that long to decide
exactly what
that?
I was gonna say, right?
Absolutely.
Like, that's the thing. The buck has to stop somewhere, and Bonnie Ross has been in charge for Halo 4 and all of its issues, for Halo 5 and all of its issues, for Master Chief Collection and all of its issues, and for the first however many years that they were working on this game, and it was, yeah, this is fine. Yeah, this looks good. Oh, no, wait, actually, you know what? We're launching next year. I don't think I like this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. If it was any other, can you think of another studio that would, I don't know, man. I'm sorry. It does.
No. I totally agree with you. That's what I'm saying. I agree with what you're saying on that front. Like, I can see that perspective. Absolutely. I just don't know that for a fact. There's no Jason Schreier article out there that says Bonnie Ross is at the helm of this disaster.
I'd love one.
I
agree.
Love one too. And again, and just in case there's anyone watching who might be like, you know, maybe wants to get their White Knight shield out, not saying that Bonnie Ross is sitting there, you know, like, I'm gonna fuck over Halo. Sometimes people aren't right for the job that they're in. That is all I'm saying, right? And again, this isn't coming out of nowhere. This is coming after 4 or 5 game launches that have not been perfect, right? So I just wanted to nip that in the bud in case there's anybody watching, or this is gonna get fucking clipped somewhere and be like, oh, Gilbo Biggins hates Bonnie Ross because she's a woman. No, just sometimes you're not good at your job, and sometimes it happens 4 times in a row. Okay, I'm just saying. And like you said yourself, Dan, like, yeah, she might have pulled him off, but also why was it allowed to go this far with, you know what people would really like, even though they've been asking for a return to basics for 10 years, is a hero shooter. Let's spend 4 years developing that.
So just to go back real quick to the root of what we were talking about. So the reason why I think we're in the position we're in right now is because of that transformation of the game. We literally started multiplayer over in 2020. I think that's the main problem. When you're starting a brand new game all over again, essentially, it's going to take more time. And I think
during COVID, nonetheless.
Yes.
During COVID, exactly.
Yes. And we saw that at launch when we got a great gameplay base at launch, but the fundamental issues with the challenge system and the XP and the progression system.
Let's be honest, predatory monetary system. Really, really aggressive.
So that's the root of the problem, in my opinion, is with the current people in the place right now, Joe Staten and the other guy's name escapes me right now, but with them in charge, in my opinion, I think those two are the correct people to be in charge right now. I just don't see any other reason for them not to be. Now, that's not saying, Gage, that I'm saying we should just overlook all of these issues. I think absolutely something needs to be done, and Phil needs to look at 343 and say what's going on here and address the problem. And if that problem is Bonnie Ross, then take care of the problem. You need to do something. And that's not even to say to fire Bonnie Ross. Chris Lee, that's not even to say that. I'm saying
move her to another studio or something, or
exactly,
have her start an offshoot, like you said.
Yeah. And Chris Lee is a great example of that. They pulled him off of Halo Infinite, but he now works at Microsoft somewhere else. Like, they literally took him into a tunnel somewhere, and now he's doing something. I don't know, but literally, there's so many things you could do. Now, I don't know.
No, I hear you. The only thing I'm going to disagree with you is on the root cause, because the root problem was allowing the game to get developed under that scope, in my mind. Like, if you buy a car and it doesn't have an airbag or a horn, and they're like, sorry, we had to completely redesign the car like a year ago. That's why you're getting the car like this. It's like, well, no. Why did you
How many concepts for games do we not see, though? That's the thing. Like, there's these games that take 10 years to develop. GTA 6 will be 10-year development cycle. How many iterations of that are there that we don't see?
Let me just shed some light into where the crux of the fan base that is super critical of 343 comes from. And this is, again, I agree with Dan. I'm not a big fan of the Act Man. Also, just for posterity and for context, the Act Man is just a YouTuber that focuses on Halo a lot. I think he's got like 1 million subscribers. So
Thank you. I didn't know who that was.
Yes. He does a lot of stuff. He does a lot of really good reviews. But he's known in the Halo community as being a very prominent Halo YouTuber. But anyways, and this unfortunate pearl of wisdom comes from him, because I'm also not a big fan of him. I think he's a bit of an ass. But anyways, 343. Since they have been given the mantle of responsibility, if we will, of Halo. Nice. Yes. That was for you, Dan. 3-4, and this is the reason why I think there needs to be an intervention and there needs to be a shakeup in senior management, is that regardless of whether or not you like the games they've released, 343 has, to this day, prior to Joe Staten being involved, has had an obsession with reinventing Halo every single time a new Halo comes out. They have never, aside from Joe Staten coming in very late in Halo Infinite, they have never thought to just innovate on what makes Halo great. Halo 4, they brought in loadouts, which has never been done before. I mean, we've all played Halo. We've all played some Halo multiplayer. We understand it's sandbox and all that stuff. They brought in loadouts and kill streaks.
Halo Reach technically has loadouts, actually, Gage.
For certain game modes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So they brought in loadouts, kill streaks, really fast time to kill. Fan base was not super happy about it. The player base died off quickly. Halo 5 multiplayer, Dan, I will concede because I have seen it. People enjoy the multiplayer. It is very different from Halo. It is very different. Very high mobility. You can dash in the air. You can hover in the air. You got these fucking super punches you can do, all this crazy shit. So, and then you have Infinite, which was going to be a hero shooter. So again, a lot of the people that are criticizing 343, again, it's not fire everybody, it's not get rid of it, it's not the developers don't care. It's that for some fucking reason, senior management has had this obsession with taking Halo and like, oh, what if we just make it not Halo? Wouldn't that be really fucking cool? And I feel like the fan base has been pretty consistent in like, hey, we really want this just to be Halo. And what we got after Joe Staten intervened was that. And that's how I know that that criticism is kind of right, because everybody agrees that the core gameplay of Halo Infinite is fantastic, and it's the most like Halo it's ever been.
I have something to add to this real quick too.
Please, somebody else other than me.
This is a weird one because obviously like the comparison isn't 1-to-1, but it kind of gets at the spirit of what Gage is saying. Like, think about Call of Duty. Like there was a moment in Call of Duty where like it felt like they were undergoing an identity crisis with specifically its multiplayer, where everything was all about like fast maneuvers and again dashing in the air, like jetpacking
Wall
around.
running. Yeah.
Yeah, and like people were not happy with it, and what they were demanding is a strong word, but what they were asking for is like just go back to what we liked so much, which is just like contemporary shooter, boots on the ground. And eventually we got that with Infinity Ward's Modern Warfare, and like what happened after that? Like that game sold, and this is the game that people are like playing. I think people are playing more Modern Warfare than they are Vanguard, which I may be talking out of my ass a little bit, but or Vanguard, and I almost forgot about Cold War. Cold War received not as great with the player base as well. Right. So like there's something to Gage's statement with where it's like stick to your roots when it makes sense, right?
I just want to get it. I don't know if I don't know. I'm not saying that you are going to say this, Dan, but I just want to get. This is something that I hear when people mention this, is that they say like, oh well, think about Halo. It would be like Call of Duty. You get sick of it, but it's like Halo never got to that point naturally. It never got to the point where people were sick and tired of it because there are so few of them compared to other releases. It's not like we get a Halo every year. So I will see some 343 apologists saying like, well, you wouldn't want Halo 4, 5, and Infinite to be the same because you just get bored of it. But it's like we never got to that point yet as a game. We never got to the point where we felt we needed to shake things up because Halo, I mean, you get one of them every 2-3 years, right? So I just wanted to nip that in the bud in case that was coming up. Is that I don't feel like that's a fair argument because Reach was really well received. Again, yes, some issues with some certain abilities like Armor Lock was the fucking stupidest thing that's ever been added to Halo ever. But coming right off of that, right? Like I said, as soon as 343 got it, every single game they've been like, well, let's completely shake it up. And I think that is it's not what people want. And I think I'm pretty confident in saying that because Infinite comes out, it's very, very much reminiscent of old school Halo, and everyone loves the gameplay. There's no split in the community on the gameplay of Infinite. Everyone fucking loves it.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that, Gage. I don't think it needs to reinvent itself or anything right now. Like maybe down the line if things start getting stagnant. Right? But also like this is again my point. Like things got better when Joe took over, and that's why I think that we're on the right trajectory with Joe back in place. I just think that they're so far behind on all the other bigger issues with the game that they lost, so much time being able to develop battle pass content or maps or modes and all this other content. But
this is actually my final contribution to this conversation. But my worry, and I think a lot of people's worry, is that while you're totally right, having Joe Staten back, I think that he will lead Halo in the right direction. The concern is that he still has to answer to Bonnie Ross. And again, all of these missteps happened under Bonnie Ross. So while Joe Staten might be the perfect man for the job, if the next Halo comes around and he gets told this is what we're doing, again, Joe Staten can try his damnedest, right? But he is not. I think a lot of people, myself included, he might not be ready for it. We don't know. I mean, people like to bring up missteps with Halo 2, but that was fucking 15, almost 20 years ago, right? Is that, I mean, maybe Joe Staten should be in Bonnie Ross's position. Maybe he should be the guy who has the final say over anything Halo. He gets the pass, and then you have somebody, again, maybe this is where we kind of blend ideas. Maybe you get a studio lead from an experienced FPS studio that comes in. They can bring their expertise, but Joe Staten is the guy that has the final say, because that's what I'm worried about. As much as I totally agree with you, Dan, that creative director, like there's no better person than Joe Staten right now, is that, again, he still has to answer to Bonnie Ross. And Bonnie Ross answers to Matt Booty, who apparently doesn't give a fuck. He's happy with all of this. He's just been fucking checked out somewhere. Who knows what he's doing? Because we're all talking about Phil Spencer getting involved, but Dan, you've corrected me in the past. It's like, well, no, there's a stopgap between Bonnie Ross and Phil Spencer. It's supposed to be Matt Booty. Who knows what the fuck he's doing? And like,
I'm not a big fan of Matt Booty either. He's not.
He said some really fucking crazy shit recently. PAX, I think it was. He had some fucking awful things to say. Go look into that if you want to watch a person in a very powerful position talk about how he wishes AI could do the jobs of QA people.
Whoa.
But, oh yeah, he was talking about how he can't wait for the day that they can get an AI program to QA test a game 10,000 times overnight, and then they don't have to get people to work on it. That's almost verbatim, unfortunately. But anyways, Yes, I think Joe Staten is the right man for the job. I don't think he's in the right job. I think he needs to be higher, and that Bonnie Ross has a few times now shown that she has not made the right decisions at the studio, and maybe we just move her somewhere else. Maybe she never touches Halo again, and that's it.
Dan will not get a rebuttal to this if he has one. I apologize because we're running longer, but I have one final question here. Hopefully it runs a bit shorter than the last question I asked. I'm kidding. It was a great conversation. It was a great conversation. We are going to get some sticking to your roots content very soon in November with Halo. But you also might get some new stuff that we've never seen in Halo before. Of course, the second one is a rumor, but we'll talk about that. Forge has to hit. That is like the Hail Mary, I think, for 343 right now. It has to work when it comes out, and it has to be fun. We're also getting supposedly a rumored battle royale mode. If that does happen, right? Are these two modes enough to satiate the current and perhaps lapsed player base?
I don't think that the battle royale is going to be out before season 3.
No. Right. Yeah. I'm just kind of grouping these together in conversation. Right. Whenever that happens, sometime next year, summer, whatever. I don't know.
I'm not sure. Obviously, Halo 5 had great multiplayer, but it had a huge decline in players the last 2 years that it was on the market, essentially, or I say the last 2 years, but normally games are on 3-year dev cycles. So I'm thinking 2016, or I'm sorry, 2017, 2018, it was already on the decline and it came out in 2015. But I think if the Battle Royale mode is exciting enough to get streamers involved, because I think streamers do have a big influence on what people play, regardless of whether or not you like the streamer or not. If it gets people interested enough, I think that could make a wave to bring people back into the game. But that has to happen at a point where the game is in a good position to continue its live service. So you cannot release that battle royale. Even if it's ready, don't release that battle royale this fall, because you'll bring players into the game and they'll see how much of a disaster it is right now. So I think the best way to launch the battle royale would possibly be season 4 launch after season 3 ends. They've already announced season 3 content. All of that's already there. They could announce it at E3 because season 3 goes through June 27th, or I guess whatever E3 is this year, or next year. And they could kind of have a big wave of content with season 4 and with battle royale, and hope that it's enough to bring people into it. So I think Forge also is a big deal. Forge goes hand in hand with custom games, which custom games are literally some of the most fun things to do in Halo. Like that, go boot up Master Chief Collection and go to the custom game browser. There's so many fun fucking games to play in there. I think Forge is very important, and they're actually 343 has 2 Forge maps that they are putting into the winter update starting November 8th. So while we're not getting designed maps by 343 like from the ground up, we're getting maps that are made in Forge by 343, which is the next best thing. And this iteration of Forge just looks incredible from all the leaks that we have seen thus far. So I'm very hopeful that at least Forge helps sustain people that are playing the game until that big wave of content next year.
Right. I think Forge probably should have been a huge priority from the get-go, because it can alleviate the team. We can create content for ourselves, right? And I do want to, I was just thinking about this as you were talking, Dan. I do want to say that I recognize that 343 or any developer of a Halo game, they kind of have way more on their plate than any other studio for a shooter by default, and this for this reason in particular. If you think of Call of Duty and people who love Call of Duty, what their bread and butter is, what they are excited about, it's multiplayer, right? 99% of them. We have campaign enjoyers, sure, but multiplayer is the thing that needs to hit for Call of Duty, and it's just multiplayer. But with Halo, you have some people play Halo because they absolutely love the campaign. There is enough of a campaign and a story there, as you guys have seen now in Halo 2 and 3, that people love it for that. Some people love it for Forge and only play Forge. For Halo Reach, however many thousands of hours I've played that game, I probably have half of that time spent in Forge. And then you have multiplayer, right? So 343 or any studio that makes Halo has their hands full kind of from the get-go because they need to make so many different game modes and they need to all be up to the same standard of quality because the Halo fan base is so diverse and they all like different things. But yes, I think Forge should have been a heightened priority from the get-go. It absolutely needs to hit. It needs to work. I understand it's launching in beta, but like if they launch this thing and in 2 weeks it's deleting people's saves, it's deleting games, that's going to be another fucking setback. So Forge absolutely needs to hit. That if they needed to delay it a month or whatever, that's fine. Forge needs to come out, in my opinion, it needs to come out this year and it needs to work as a beta, right? Like it needs to, like I'm saying, it can't be like a game breaking thing where you spend 16 hours on a game mode and then it fucking deletes itself, right? Like that's going to be, they cannot afford any more bad press at all. So yeah, Forge needs to hit. I don't think the Battle Royale, I don't think a lot of the fan base that is already here cares about the Battle Royale right now. We all, like Dan said, we all want a working game. I think, like in terms of priority, I think we all like, because like you said, Dan, if they release a Battle Royale and it brings people into a broken game, who gives a fuck? So I think the Battle Royale is kind of like a cherry on top. Like, yes, it's exciting to come in on drop pods and everybody's always wondered what a Battle Royale would look like in the Halo universe and all that stuff, and that's fine. But at least speaking for me, it's not on my mind now at all. I don't give a shit. I want the core game to work and to sort of have content and yeah, I think next summer is a good launch for the Battle Royale, but the game they need to fulfill the promise of a Halo live service game. Again, they decided to do this, right? If they had launched this game and they didn't call it a live service game, I feel like you could go 6, 7, 8 months before content drop because then it would just be DLC, right? You could make the DLC free for everyone like Titanfall did, and there's no obligation, right? But the problem is that you guys decided this was a live service game and now we have a 10-month long season 2. So
man, lots to think about, lots on the plate for 343. Before we end the show, I have one last question, and this is just specifically for Ro, only Ro. Okay, Ro, are you and me gonna jump into Forge when that comes out? Should we jump into Infinite and play with the lads?
Huh? Are we done?
Oh, did we wake you? I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. To answer your question, yes. I like to. It's free, right? Like I think a battle royale and all that stuff is super exciting for players who are like myself, aren't playing it. That'll get me something to jump back in and give it a shot. Will it ignite new life into Halo Infinite? I don't know, but it definitely will get me to pick it back up and try again. So yes, I would love to play Forge with the boys when it comes out.
And that's all we can ask for. Oh, Dan, please.
Let me just preface, you guys probably wouldn't be that interested in Forge like as a game mode because you're just building maps. So
No, I mean, I'll play other people's content.
Yes,
Is what I meant.
okay, yes, okay.
Yeah. There's already leaks of like Mario Kart tracks and it's like a Mario Kart game mode, right? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
I want to jump in here, Christian. I want to apologize to Rashan because I recently shared a meme. All right, dogging these guys for me disassociating while they talk about weeb stuff, and yet we've just had an episode where Dan and I talk about Halo for like 6 hours.
It was a good conversation, especially the second, like I think the second question. I was like, I was entertained. I was listening like a podcast.
I thought I was listening to the show.
The timing of me making that snarky little comment and then literally coming into this episode where Dan and I talk for an hour straight and you guys just sit there. No, I just thought that
we're talking about Bayonetta as topic of the show.
Oh, dude, I can't wait.
Please, you guys
she's so sexy.
It'll be win-win.
Fun fact real quick before we end the show. I was like, today, easy episode. It's going to be like 90 minutes max, no doubt. Here we are 2 hours later. Anyway, folks, thank you again to everyone joining us live on YouTube, Twitch, not Twitter, and podcast services everywhere, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and everywhere else you get your podcast. Thank you, Roshan. I love you. Thank you, me. Thank you, Gage. I am Daniel. No, that's not true. Thank you, Daniel. And this has been Podcast PXN, and we are out.
Much love. Remember to go to your local Walgreens and use code Daniel Prindle for 10% off your meat order.
Keep on gaming.
Thank you, sir. Please, someone.